In this video, we are going to talk about how to configure a CAERO1 entry for MSC Nastran. So by the end of the video, you'll have an idea of how to configure this example that you see here on the screen. Now, we are going to be using a web application to learn how to create this entry. If you want access to this tool that you see on the screen, you can visit theengineeringlab.com. At the top right hand corner is a link to a free trial of this tool. Now, this example is part of a larger Nastran model. This example can be found in the MSC Nastran Aero Elastic Analysis User's Guide. There is a section called Forward Swept Wing Airplane and Level Flight. This example is going to walk you through more details on this Nastran model. Now, my goal is not to go into great detail regarding all of this. This discussion is just on the CAERO1 entry. So let's go ahead and get started. So once you get access to the free trial, you get a link to the home page. You will go ahead and click the viewer, and it's in the viewer where you would go ahead and select the bulk data file for this tutorial. So here we'll go ahead and click that bulk data file. We'll upload it. Right now we have a display of the Nastran model. Let's go ahead and hide the beam cross sections. And here, let's go ahead and look at this from the top view. Let's rotate the model. And now we have a look at the different CAERO1 entries. And here on the left in this blue color, this would be the entry I'm looking to modify in this example. Now here in the color column on the right, if you click this button, it's going to recolor all the different properties and elements. Now, let's go to the pre-web app and let me talk about how to create a CAERO1 entry. This starts with a PAERO1 entry. So you look for PAERO1, you go here, you click on create entry on the right, and then you configure that entry. Then you look for CAERO1, you jump to that section, you create or you click on create entry, and then this creates a new entry here at the bottom row. Now, whenever you make a modification, for example, I type in 99 for end span. Here on the right, we give you a preview of what the respective bulk data entry looks like. So here a moment ago, I typed in 99, and if you look at the bottom right hand side, we have 99 in this field. If I make that 123, you can see that the bulk data entry immediately updates. So this is a great way of learning how to modify the bulk data entry. Okay, now I am not going to create these entries from scratch. I'm just going to take an existing entry and show you what the different inputs are. So let's go ahead and click on display descriptions. And here, let's look at this row. Actually, let me filter the table so we're only looking at this ID, or here, let's just look at all the IDs for now. Let's look at all the rows for now. Let me look at the end span column. Let's move this to the side maybe. Let's move this to the right a little. And here, let's go ahead and type in 10 instead of 4. So when I type in 10, you can see that I now have 10 boxes along the span direction of the CAERO1 entry. For the next column and chord, right now I have 4 boxes along the chord direction of the panel, if you will. If I want, I can make it 2. And now I have 2 boxes along the chord direction. Let's go ahead and scroll to the right a little bit more. And what are X1, Y1, and Z1? If you look at the quick reference guide, this is going to give you even more information regarding what each input does. If you look in the remarks, this gives you even more information about what the capabilities are of this entry. What I want to show you is this diagram. To define a CAERO1 entry, you need to define a 0.1 and a 0.4. Then you need to specify the length of this edge and then the length of this edge here on the right. 0.1 and 0.4 are defined in these columns. So this is the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, and the Z coordinate for 0.1. If I look to the right, I have x4, y4, z4. This is going to be 0.4, so the x, y, and z coordinates for 0.4. So here, just as an example, let's go ahead and modify this coordinate. Let's make that 20. And you can see that this point is now completely different. It's in a different location. So if I move that back to 13, you can see that the 0.1 is now here on the top left. Let me adjust the y coordinate. Let's make that -10 instead of -20. So this point is going to move. Maybe that was not a good idea. Let's make it -30 instead. So now 0.1 has moved here to the left. Let's go ahead and change that back to, I believe it was 10. No, it was 20. So again, these columns control the position of 0.1, and then these next columns control the position of 0.4. Now, how do you control the length of this edge? You come to this column, x12, and then here, let's go ahead and make this maybe a length of 15. And here in a moment, we'll see that the length of this edge has changed. So let's go ahead and leave it 15 for now. Let's go ahead and modify the second edge. Instead of 10, let's use a length of 20 maybe. So this edge that you see on the right is now 20. In this case, we're using units of feet. So this edge is now 20 feet. Let's go ahead and change that back to 10 and 10. And let's go ahead and restore the values of end span and end chord. So before we have 4 and 4, so let's go ahead and revert that. So now we have 4 boxes along the span and 4 boxes along the chord. So there you have it. That's how you configure a CAERO1 entry. And you notice that whatever modifications we did to that entry, the updates happen instantly for the bulk data entry. So if you look at this CAERO1 entry, everything we did has been carried over to this bulk data entry. Now, there are a few additional things to show you. Maybe you want to look at the panel. So you just want to look at the panel without the boxes. Here in the model display panel, you can scroll down and look for that CAERO1 entry. In this case, it's CAERO1 ID 2100. Or you can actually use the search bar, and that would take you to that specific set of rows for that entry. So again, you can show just the panel or the boxes, or you can show the aerodynamic grid points, which are at the center of the boxes. So here we're looking at the numbering. And if you look at this numbering, it's going to look a lot like the diagrams that you see in the quick reference guide. And one other thing, you want to confirm the degrees of freedom for aerodynamic grid points. How do you do that? If you look in the orientations button, so here on the left, we have a few tools available for you. If you click on orientations, here on the right, we have the orientations panel open. If you click on display displacement coordinate system, this will display the degrees of freedom for your aerodynamic grid points. So let's go ahead and turn that on. Now, if you look very closely, let's go ahead and turn off the labels actually. If you look very closely, now you have coordinate systems at each grid point. These are the degrees of freedom for your grid points, and we have stick figures just to communicate that your results are going to be observed by these individual observers. That's the whole idea in these degrees of freedom. There's an observer here that's observing deflections. If this was a structure, but here these are aerodynamic grid points, so the values being observed are a little different. Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of the tutorial. Let me leave you off with one other piece of information. So just in case you have questions, you can contact me at this email address, and I would definitely get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching.